Okay, tell me about hepatitis B.
When 3 doses at birth, 1 to 2 months, and the third dose no earlier than 24 weeks. Route IM, and then for adverse reactions, injection site reaction, temperature over 99, fatigue, weakness, malaise, nausea.
Okay. What kind of vaccine is this? Is this live? Is it inactivated?
The recombinant vaccine.
Okay. The name is the key is in the name right there. What kind of vaccine?
Recombinant.
It's a recombinant vaccine. The only thing that is present is hepatitis B surface antigen. You will get asked, well, I'm afraid you'll get hepatitis B from this. You cannot get hepatitis B from the current hepatitis B vaccine. There was an older vaccine that was made in the early 80s, late 70s that was human blood product derived. This is not that vaccine. This is grown in yeast. So you can't get Hep B from this. There's no Hep B around. Okay, perfect. Why don't you go ahead and... Okay, let's talk about Prevnar.
Prevnar. It's a conjugate vaccine given 4 doses, ages 2, 4, 6, and 12 to 15 months. IM.
Okay.
Skip contraindications or?
Unless there's anything unique.
Just diphtheria toxoid if you have a hypersensitivity.
Okay, and that one's a little bit weird, and it's because that's what it's conjugated to. Okay, and we'll come back and explain that in a second. And any particular side effects?
Adverse reactions, mild injection site reaction, temperature, fuzzy, drowsy, loss of appetite.
Okay. So the way this works, carbohydrates are not very effective as a vaccine. Your immune system doesn't respond real well to them. So you have the old 20-valent pneumavax, the pneumococcus vaccine, but you gave that only to old people. It only lasted for a couple of years. You had to repeat it regularly. It didn't incite a really good immune response. You could not give it under age 2. It didn't work. What they did is they took that carbohydrate molecule, the polysaccharide capsule of the pneumococcus bacteria, and they attached it to the diphtheria molecule, CRM, I think it's 125. And that is a very potent immune modulator, so your immune system really responds to diphtheria toxoid. By doing that, you now have created a very potent vaccine that the immune system responds to and induces good memory, so good plasma cell formation, memory T cell formation. And you can give it much younger. But because you attached part of the diphtheria molecule to it, if you had some kind of weird hypersensitivity reaction to the diphtheria molecule, you don't want to give this one because it's got part of diphtheria in it. And but that's about it. It has no particular, interesting side effects. It's given intramuscularly. Okay, good. Okay, Haemophilus influenza type B.
Okay, 3 licensed vaccines of a capsular polysaccharide antigen conjugated to carrier protein when? Ages 2 months, 4 months, 6 months, 12 to 15 months, depending on what brand of vaccine is used.
Right.
If it's PR...
Don't need to get into the details. Don't worry about that.
Okay. Route IM, contraindications, hypersensitivity to yeast, acute febrile illness, immunosuppressed.
Only if it's severe acute febrile illness, though. Mild acute illnesses, so fevers of less than 105, we don't worry about. We vaccinate preemies on vents all the time with this. So, and that's true for all of the vaccines. You keep seeing acute febrile illness show up in various literatures, but if you look in the Red Book and you look at the stuff published by the CDC, it's only for severe febrile illness, that's 105.5 or more, and that's only a relative contraindication. It's not an absolute contraindication. The only absolute for this is anaphylaxis. Any particular side effects other than the usual?
Transient inflammation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay, let's talk about rotavirus.
Okay, 3 doses, ages 2, 4, 6 months. First dose could be given as early as 6 weeks, but no later than 14 weeks and 6 days. Last should be given by the 8 months.
Okay.
It's oral live virus. Contraindications, severe immunity.
Severe immune deficiency.
Severe immunodeficiency. Reports of gastroenteritis, prolonged shedding of vaccine were reported in infants with a severe immunity. Also, baby who has allergic reaction to previous dose for rotavirus.
Now, there is one other relative contraindication and a long story you need to know about, and that's a history of intussusception. Okay, and another contraindication is any GI malformation because of the risk of intussusception. And there's a story about how this came about, and you kind of need to know the story because rotavirus vaccine doesn't cause intussusception, at least we don't think so. So we're going to back up a little bit. We're going to go back to 2000. In 2000, the company Wyeth, which is a large drug manufacturer, recently bought out by somebody, Pfizer, I think, bought them, introduced a vaccine to the market called Rotashield. And Rotashield was a great vaccine. Before I say anything more, you need to realize the number one cause of death for children worldwide is diarrheal illness, the vast majority of which is rotaviral illness. Okay, and it's something like 30 million deaths a year. It's some obscene number. I'd have to go look it up on World Health Organization website, but it's a ton. So this vaccine was great. It was hailed as a big to-do. But because it was a live virus, everybody worried what happens if you stimulate the immune system in the gut. And in the gut are Peyer's patches, which are lymphoidal tissue that lines the intestines. And inflammation of a Peyer's patch can then serve as a lead point for intussusception. Intussusception is when the intestines invaginate into one another like a telescope, okay, or kind of like, that would be intussuscepting, and that's a bad thing. You then obstruct and you can perforate and die. So they were watching very closely for this in post-marketing surveillance, and they noticed a couple of cases, and the FDA started to get kind of twitchy, and the FDA these days is pretty much insane and out of control, and started saying, well, gee, we think maybe there's a connection, and you need to look closer at this, and Wyeth just said, well, we're not doing this, and they just pulled the drug from the market. It took them 2 years to analyze the data, and at the end of 2 years, they discovered that while there was a temporal association, there was no causal association between intussusception and rotavirus vaccine. The reason is because kids especially between 6 and 24 months are the kids that get intussusception, statistically speaking. So a certain number of them did get it temporally associated with their third dose of rotavirus vaccine. That's just when it happens. But it had nothing to do with the vaccine that had gotten it, even if they hadn't been vaccinated. So the vaccine was pulled from the market. When these two newer vaccines, Rotarix and Rotatech, hit the market, the companies have been really paranoid about what happened to Wyeth for good reasons. And so if you have any kind of GI malformation, which increases your risk of intussusception, it's listed as a contraindication because they just flat out don't want to get sued. If you have a history of intussusception, they ask that you not give the vaccine, again, because they don't want to get sued, so make it the doctor's problem if you do it. And it has nothing to do with medical care. It has everything to do with it being a litigion and making the lawyers go away. Okay, but those are listed as well. It is a live virus. You can pass it on. And when you say immune compromise, I don't mean Johnny gets sick an awful lot. They're talking about HIV, severe combined immunodeficiency, selective IgA deficiency, which you usually don't know at 2 and 4 months of age. But if you do have that one figured out, you don't give it. Kids with not HIV positive, but AIDS. Okay, so end-stage HIV, not asymptomatic HIV carrier state. Kids on chemotherapy, leukemic, stuff like that, we don't give it to them, but pretty much anybody else can have it. Okay.